Welcome to Lunch with Legacy Leaders, a weekly talk show with local and national thought leaders on issues impacting the Black community. Now introducing our host, Miss Ann Marie Sorrell.
Welcome to Lunch with Legacy Leaders. Thank you so much for joining us. I am your host, Ann Marie Sorrell, President and CEO of the Mosaic Group. We have another amazing guest with us today, but before we get started, I want to thank our sponsors, Broward Health and the Florida Lottery. Today, we are joined by the great, legendary Jim Barry, who's the sports anchor for CBS 4 News. Let's welcome Jim.
How you doing, Ann Marie?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm awesome. It's good to be here with you.
Oh, it's good to have you here. Oh my God. You are the man when it comes to news and broadcasting and sports, and I'm so excited to be able to sit with you today.
I'm looking forward to this. I really am.
So for our audience who don't know you, which I don't know who that is, right? Because they're just probably not paying attention. But I just want to read your bio real quick. Jim Barry is the main sports anchor for CBS 4 News. He anchors the weeknight sportscast and the station's extensive Miami Dolphins coverage. During football season, Jim hosts the pregame show, Dolphins Weekly Live, and the fifth quarter postgame show. Jim joined CBS 4 in August 1996 from WBBM TV, the CBS-owned station in Chicago, so you're from Chi-Town. In Jim's first stint in Miami, he was sports director at WSVN TV. His broadcasting career began in news. Jim worked at WBTV in Charlotte, North Carolina, before moving on to WJLA-TV in Washington, D.C. He was a news reporter and anchor before turning to sports. Jim is a three-time Best of Miami winner and has won 5 Emmys. Wow. He is also a recipient of the Silver Circle of Excellence Award for Distinguished Journalism Career from the Suncoast chapter of the National Academy of Arts and Sciences. Jim has been a frequent motivational speaker at schools and been involved in numerous charities. The Chicago native graduated from Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism. He's married with 2 children. Welcome again, Jim.
Thank you for having me, Ann Marie.
So what a career. You've been with CBS 4 for over 20 years.
24 years. I'll be 25 next month. I don't know how that is. I'm only 29. I don't understand how that could possibly be.
I know. You started when you were like 3 in journalism. So what are some of your biggest highlights over this period?
Oh, there's so many. It's really too numerous to mention, but I've been so blessed to be covering sports during this time period, and certainly here in Miami, when Miami really grew into a major league sports town. You know, for years, Miami was just seen as a football town, and it still is primarily. But I've been here for the birth of the Miami Heat, the NBA team, the Marlins, the baseball franchise. I've been here back when the University of Miami football team was dominant. So I covered World Series champions, college champions, NBA champions. So it's really been spectacular for me. And I think also the real treat for me is that I've had the opportunity to really see what makes some of these great athletes tick, and watching them behind the scenes and really getting to know them as people and seeing them fight through their battles to perform and give their best when it matters the most. I think that has been another very enjoyable thing for me.
Wow, absolutely. So we're experiencing some unprecedented times on so many levels, so many levels. But from a sports perspective, how has covering sports been, A, since the pandemic, and then B, I also want to touch on, athletes becoming more conscious and using their platform, their voices more. So we can touch on both of those perspectives.
Sure. Well, covering the pandemic is very difficult. Sports during the pandemic is difficult because now we're covering from a distance. We are not allowed any close-up contact with the players, so we're not at the practices. We're not at the games. We're in it when we talk to them. It's like this through Zoom and platforms like this. So it becomes much more impersonal, which is difficult, honestly. I'm glad that they're playing the games, but we all understand that this is just not normal. In terms of the players and using their platforms, to me, it is so heartwarming to see players recognize the power they have and to use that influence in a positive way. And for them, quite honestly, to understand what the important thing is. They recognize that they're blessed, but they still haven't disconnected from their communities. They are still very much a part of their communities. They want to see change in their communities. And to the extent that they are using the platform that they have to make certain that we don't lose sight of what's really important, I applaud them. And, it takes me back to the 60s when athletes like Jim Brown and Muhammad Ali and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Tommy Smith, those athletes really stepped forward and put themselves really out there on a limb to affect change. And now, you're seeing that players are willing to do it again. There's a side of me that says, man, in some cases it's a few years too late, because when Colin Kaepernick stepped out there on a limb, he was kind of left out there by himself. But now I see that players, recognize that it's important that they show solidarity, and that by everybody being on the same page about how we can move forward, I think it speaks a very loud and powerful message.
Now, do you think that? Hold on, here you go. Do you think that the athletes did not step forward because of fear of the retaliation from the leagues that they represent or the public? Like, what do you think was the hesitation of why they did not stand with Kaepernick at the time?
I think there were a couple of reasons. Number one, politically, I think the mood of the country had seemed like it had changed in an instant. And so they recognized that and felt maybe, wow, what is this new political landscape that we're stepping into? And when the president of the United States kind of jumps out and attacks their position, it's jolting. So I think that's part of it. Secondly, I think in the NFL, you have to understand that most of the players in the NFL are really playing year to year. And so they're not like the NBA players, even Major League Baseball players, where they have these long-term guaranteed contracts. And so a lot of football players, quite frankly, may not have felt they had the power and the security to speak forward the way Cap did. So I think those two factors had a lot to do with it.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for definitely shedding insight on that, because I know that, from the general public standpoint, we don't always understand what happens, what kind of contracts or agreements they have in place. And, although we definitely all have to stand for something, we all have to decide what are we willing to sacrifice with ourselves, our families, and our community in taking a stand for something.
Well, it's true. And the other thing to point out too with Colin Kaepernick, it wasn't like he went around and tried to organize the players and said, "Hey guys, I'm going to do this. Will you guys stand with me or not?" And so, boom, by the time that it happened, I think a lot of guys are trying to absorb exactly what he did, why he did it, what was his message. I think maybe if it had been something where he had gone around to other players in the league, maybe there would have been a little more support. But
right. Yeah. And maybe for him, maybe it was in that moment, like, you know what, I'm over it. I'm not standing, Well,
in fact, he said that, he said that, he wasn't really doing this to make a big deal out of it. It was his own personal way of expressing himself, much like the former NBA basketball player Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf did the same kind of thing because of his religious beliefs. So it was a personal choice for him. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely. So we've observed some recent talents of yours. Now, we knew you were amazing at journalism and covering sports, but we didn't know you sing and had a little rap talent going on there. So you recently released a very powerful video, and I want to just play that for our audience, and then we're going to discuss it.
Okay. You always told me it takes time. Well, it's taken my father's time, my mother's time, my uncle's time, my brothers and sisters' time, my nieces and nephews' time. How much time do you want for your progress? The revolutionaries were called fanatics. Among the bravest was Crispus Attucks. 1770, when the British attacked, the first man to die for American freedom was black. But like Bob Marley, we've been waiting in vain. A mighty long time for that freedom train. Some say one day it will arrive. But James Baldwin asked for all of us, how much time? Patience, racists say the change takes time. Pacifying my dreams, lying on the wild. Never really intended to free my soul. Paranoid about losing control. But liberty costs less than the price of repression. W.E.B. Du Bois said it, and I'm getting the message. Pay now, the bill is due. America, the promise of equality is coming for you. You're out of time. How much time do you want? How much time do you need? How much more time before I get the dignity I should receive? Well, power concedes nothing without a demand. Frederick Douglass told me that, and believe me, I understand. Paul Robeson was a great vocalist, ostracized as a socialist. But the answer to injustice is not silence the critic, but to end the injustice, Paul said. And I get it, voices of dissent, speaking loud like a James Brown remix of I'm Black and I'm Proud. Too many died, loved ones cried, and we wonder why the price of equality is so high. But now is there a new feeling? The NFL says the Z's white cat was kneeling. Like minds, holding signs, no longer colorblind to the afflictions of people of my kind. And I can hear Martin and Malcolm say it's about time. How much time do you want? How much time? How much time do you need? How much more time before I get the dignity I should receive? To turn all the slogans into motives, we gotta get people voting. For more than 40 acres and a you gotta add interest and belong. Diversity, you promised me, but I don't see enough of me in places of authority. To be like Ali, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. People of goodwill are coming together, putting money on the table to make things better. But my grandma always said the proof is in the pudding. But we now improve with those before couldn't. Gil Scott said revolution won't be televised, but it is, Gil, right before our own eyes. Statues down, team names switched. Trying to get Tom Watson, what you say? Ain't that a bitch? Let history recall, this is what we got both. Not just another hustle or political okey doke. America's foundation could be on the line if we don't step up and make it right this time. But I believe this time we can. If you agree, say yes, we can. Langston Hughes' words are still in my memory, asking why democracy meant everyone but me. How much time do you want? How much time do you need? How much more time before I get the dignity I should receive? Sam Cooke said a change is gonna come. How much time do you want? But is it not time to be the change we see? How much time do you need? How much more time before I get the dignity I should receive? Time for all of us to make this the time.
It's amazing why we keep loving this country, and this country does not love us back.
Woo. That was profound, powerful. It's packed with so much. Um, what inspired you? You opened the line with how much time do we want for progress? What inspired you to produce this video?
The year 2020. The year 2020. Is that me or you?
Uh,
I hear a little feedback there. Now, we okay now?
yeah, I think we're good now.
Okay. The year 2020 inspired me, Ann Marie. I mean, when I saw how tense this nation was, the social unrest, with the backdrop of the pandemic, with the tension politically, it all just kind of hit me, and it inspired me to go read again and go back in history and frankly look up some things online. And I stumbled across an interview that James Baldwin did in 1984, I think it was, 3 years before he passed. And he was asked the question about the rate of the pace of racial progress, and the essence was, well, things are getting better. You know how much, and then James Baldwin said, well, look, I'm 60 years old now. I don't have a lot of time. And in 22 seconds, he said, you've taken my father's time, my mother's time, my uncle's time, my brother's time, my brother and sister's time, my nieces and nephews' time. How much time do you want for your progress? And I thought that just really said it, that collectively we have waited so long for the needle to get moved forward. And so that's when I sat down and reflected on the fact that this has been an ongoing fight that we have had. And it showed me that we can learn a lot from the wisdom of those who have passed before us, from Frederick Douglass to Langston Hughes and so on up the line. Their words can teach us today. And that's really what I wanted to capture in this video.
You captured it so well. I think it's definitely, for me, have motivated me to go look and listen and like you said, just read again these historic figures that you featured here and what they had to say. And the fact that 40 plus years later, 50 years later,
Here we are.
We're still fighting for the same the same types of freedoms, the same types of opportunities, the same types of equity and equality. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah,
We're still here.
It is. And I think that, the way I look at it, Anne Marie, if I can use a sports analogy since I'm the sports guy, it's like a football game. You get the ball, you score a touchdown. Hey, we scored. Game over. No, it ain't. That's just, you just scored. That doesn't mean the game is over. And then what we have to recognize is that if you start winning, the rules can get changed on you. And so that's why we always have to be astute. And that's where history comes in, because it gives us a sense of the playbook that's been run before us. So that when we see things today, we recognize, I heard so-and-so say that in 1968. I heard them call Martin Luther King an outside agitator, the same way they call the protesters now. I heard Richard Nixon talk about law and order, the way we hear that phrase being thrown around now. So, I think that's why we need that foundation to recognize that coded language and understand what it could mean for us.
No, absolutely, because the goal is to not have history repeat itself.
Right.
Especially not in this way. I mean, for fashion, maybe.
Right.
Maybe for fashion, but not for, justice and the rights of people and just people wanting to have a good quality of life and opportunity. Like history should not be repeating itself in that format, right? So the audience, who do you want to hear and watch and really understand this message, and what do you want them to really receive from this?
I want everybody to see it that way. And the beautiful thing about this, since it's been out now, I've heard from people from all walks of life, all different kinds of religious persuasions, ethnic persuasions. It's been really gratifying to me to see that it touches so many people in different ways. I've heard from people I haven't heard from in 20 years who said, wow, this was really speaking to me. And I think that everybody can take a little bit from it. I think, someone who's not African American can maybe absorb how we feel and the frustration that goes into our experience here in America, and maybe appreciate it a little bit more. And I think someone who is African American, who is in my age group, can respect that. Wow, we've come this far, and we were a generation that largely benefited from the struggles of those before us. But there's more that we can do to make sure that the next generation understands it. And I think the younger generation can look at this and say, man, this has given me a perspective, an anchor of history that allows me to play it forward now and move this struggle forward and get involved and tie in to some of the things that they see their leaders talking about, which today, most importantly, is vote.
Right.
But beyond voting, getting involved in some of these issues, learning these issues. Those who are interested in being attorneys, go to law school, because now a lot of the battle is with the laws that are in this country. If you're interested in being a writer or a storyteller, go to journalism school, because we can have more journalists tell the stories that need to get out there. So whatever your interest is, there's a way for you to apply yourself, and the foundation of history and the words and the thoughts of those before can help prepare you for moving us ahead.
I love that. I really do. And that's great advice. I think a lot of times especially our young people, we're not encouraging them to go and get careers based on their consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
It's really based on, or it's based on a couple of things, either family influence,
right,
or what I've seen in my community, as far as I've seen a doctor, I've seen whatever they've seen up close and personal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or what they see on TV, as far as, the celebrities more so, and that lifestyle. And so we haven't really encouraged our young people to say, hey, what are you conscious about? And that really takes me into my next question for you is, do you believe that the recent events have made people more conscious or woke? And do you see this as, long-term, do you see it sparking long-term change as a result, or is it just kind of a in the moment thing?
I believe this is a flashpoint. I believe that it will lead to long-term change, because I think, calling on history, in the 1960s, television played a major role in civil rights, because people were sitting comfortably at home, and all of a sudden television news was there in the South capturing what was happening. And that got people up off the sofa and made them uncomfortable and made them recognize, wait a minute, this is not some faraway land. This is right here in the United States. This is happening. And so the same thing now is happening, because of these. We're capturing things, and it's undeniable what's happening in front of you. So I think that because of the undeniable moment that we are seeing, that, I do believe that we are moving things forward. And I think you make a great point about, how we have to inspire our young people to believe in critical thinking. And because we've always, and again, going back to history, they need to understand and respect that African Americans have always been critical thinkers. This is not new. James Baldwin wrote something. I just reread his book, The Fire Next Time. And he was talking about how the feeling was back in the 50s for Black men that, to succeed, you had to have a gimmick. You had to be able to sing, you had to be able to dance, you had to play sports, and or else a lot of Black men felt there was really not much opportunity for them. And, look, if you fast forward it today, there's a heavy emphasis on those things still in our community, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we can't all sing, dance, and play sports, nor do we need to. So there's so much more and so many other ways that we could contribute. And that, to me, is what this battle today should be all about, that we are involved in the total landscape of America, from being on the front line of trying to come up with a vaccine for the coronavirus, to solving the issues of climate change, to getting involved politically, to all the way down the line. We have the smarts to be involved, and we should be involved.
Absolutely. No, and you're right on it. And I really hope that anyone who's listening to this, especially if you have a young person in your life or your home, that you really encourage them to really focus on what's happening. Because I always say, when we talk about, for example, policing, let's just talk about policing in general. But if we're not encouraging our young people, our young brothers and sisters, to actually have a career in law enforcement, then we can't work to change things from the inside. And then when you get in there, you got to work on becoming leadership in law enforcement, working up to leadership levels where we have more police chiefs, we have more colonels, we have more sergeants and detectives and so on and so forth. So I think that we have to be able to encourage our children to look at careers in a way of it's making sure we have people at the table to impact change.
Totally right. Yeah, you can't change it all the way, always from outside the room. Sometimes you got to be in the room.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think others have learned that very well.
Yeah. Yeah. And, here's the thing, though, Ann Marie, sometimes that's a lonely place to be.
Yeah.
And, young people come to me from time to time and say, about asking about how they can get started in the business or any other career, and what advice do they have? And so I turn it around and ask them, what it is they want. And they describe to me their ambitions, which are fantastic in many cases. And so then they look back at me, and so I ask them, your vision is great. So let me ask you this question. How lonely are you willing to be? Because the farther you go up, the lonelier you might feel. And that's just true, whether it's in journalism, accounting, science, you name it. So that's why, us connecting on a level like this, us networking with people within our chosen fields and beyond, we have to be each other's support system. So that when we go back to our respective camps and we have those moments of isolation, we know that we're really not isolated, that this is our role in helping move the needle forward.
Absolutely. Now, you've used your platform to create a profound message and share with the world. And you've mentioned, and we've talked about some of the things that people in our community can do to be a part of the change that we all want to see. Do you have any other ways that you feel that people can, whether it's using their platform or what can they do in their communities to be a part of this change that we're all fighting for?
Couple of things. One, I think, we need more mentors in our communities. And I would say that we need more mentoring across ethnic and racial lines, because those are the things that can begin to break down, the barriers and create a greater understanding. And you have to recognize that in America, we still is still largely a segregated nation. White people generally live around white people, Hispanic people in Miami live around other Hispanics, Black people live around Black people. So even though everybody's here, doesn't mean we're necessarily living together. And so I think that if we make an effort to start mentoring young people from different communities, they get better, and so do we. And I think the levels of understanding improve. And I'm kind of speaking from experience here, because when I was a senior in college at Northwestern, which is again just north of Chicago. And I'm looking at my hair. I could use a little haircut now, but back in the day, Ann Marie, my hair was about 3 times bigger than it was, and if you can envision that. And I was a basketball player, and I chipped my tooth from guys elbowing me, so I have a little chipped tooth, and I was looking a little rough, okay, but I had this vision that I could be on TV, and so there was a professor at Northwestern who saw that I really wanted to do this, and so he said, "Hey, look." Well, it was not one professor said to me, "Hey, look, what's your plan?" I said, "Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll try to, when I graduate, I'll try to be on radio." They said, "Well, you should probably try TV from the beginning." And I said, "Really?" So that sparked that thought. And then the other guy who I'm bringing up said, "Well, look, when you're ready to put your first audition tape together, because that's how we market ourselves in this business. People have to see how you look on tape." He arranged for me to go into a studio in Chicago, a professional studio. He paid for the time, and I sat there and did my thing from something that I had done from the school radio station. That was my audition tape, and I armed with those 3 tapes that I walked out of there with. That's how I got my start in the business. And I was a white guy from Tulsa, Oklahoma, who opened that door for me. I really believe that the more that we look out for each other, our understanding for each other will be greater. So I think it can start there. That's a very simple thing that everybody can do.
I agree. I do love that because, I mean, from my own personal experience, there have been people from all walks of life, all backgrounds, who have definitely helped open doors for me and continue to help open doors for me. So you're absolutely right that, mentoring across cultures is important, and interacting and engaging and really learning culturally who we are as people. We, even within our own culture, we have, so many differences, that we can embrace, learn from, and embrace. So I think that's good. That's good advice. The elections are a few days away. Just a few days away. I feel like we've been waiting on this election to happen for 10 years or something. What are your thoughts on the upcoming election?
Other than I can't wait for it to be over. I think that I have so many thoughts. There's a weariness, certainly, that I think we all have as we approach the finish line. There's a sense of excitement and, frankly, fear, mixed with fear and worry, because you're not sure what's going to be the other side of next Tuesday. I am encouraged that so many people are moved to get out and stand in lines for hours and hours to vote. That is very encouraging to me, that people still believe in democracy and believe in the institutions that we have created so that democracy doesn't get hijacked. So now I just hope that democracy does not get hijacked, and that, that the results are fair, and that as we move forward, we will all have a voice in rescuing the soul of this nation, because I think that's what has to happen. You go back to when JFK was inaugurated in '61, and he said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And we're kind of at that same point. We have to ask, what can we do? And it's so easy for someone who's wealthy to just vote their pocketbook and not worry about anybody else. But that's not really what America is. We've seen how dividing America has made this the worst place to live. It just has. And not from the local level on to the national level. You look locally at how cities are suffering. Many cities are suffering because a lot of the wealthiest residents have fled the cities and gone to the suburbs and taken that tax base with them. And so the cities are left trying to figure out how to make ends meet. So we've got to figure out ways to be there for each other. And I think leadership sets the tone, period.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So as we wrap up, you dropped a lot of gems today, and I know we can go on for hours and hours. Again, congratulations on the video. I'm definitely going to be sharing it far and wide.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And, what's a golden nugget? What's a takeaway that you want our audience to, that you want to leave with our audience today?
That we do care about each other as people, and that by listening to the stories of others, that chord of empathy can be awakened and inspire you in your own way to find a way that we can all come together. And I hope that this video in some small way can accomplish that and can touch people in ways that make them go, "Wow, this is illuminating to me. I didn't know this. I didn't know you felt this way." It's kind of interesting, Ann Marie, because people presume, and certainly with athletes, to my far greater extent than me, they reach a certain level and people think, "Well, what are you complaining about? You're good." But it's not about me or one individual. It's about us. And, it's about all us understanding that we're all connected. Those of us who are here now, those of us who may be 60, 50 are connected to those who are 30 and 20, those who are non-Black. We're all connected. And I hope that we can find a way to use that as a strength to move forward so that we enjoy the best that everybody has to offer.
I love that, and I will summarize that to saying that you inspire us to have a collective and a connective voice.
Yeah. There you go. That's it. You said it better than me, Ann Marie. That's why you're the host.
Hashtag collective and connective. So, Jim, how does our audience learn more about you, find you? How can they stay in touch with you?
A lot of ways. You can, to talk about my music, because the music thing is something that's sort of taken on another life of its own, Ann Marie, and thank you for highlighting it. But, to find more about Jim the musician, I have a website, jimberrymusic.com. This video is posted along with some jazz stuff that I've done and some other things. And you can follow me on Facebook. I do tweet once in a blue moon. And certainly you can email me at CBS4, that's WFOR, CBS4 Miami, and I'll get back to you because, this community has been great to me. And I think one of the beauties of being in the position that I've been is that it's allowed me access to different windows of this community. And I remember when I first moved here and I was put up in a very nice apartment until we figured out where we were going to live. And to the east, Ann Marie, I was looking out at the water and the ocean. I'm like, oh man, that's beautiful. And I turned and looked over the rest of Miami and I'm like, okay, this is the Miami I got to learn right here. I got to learn what this is about. And I feel that people have allowed me to embrace the soul of this community, and it's a beautiful soul. And I think that we have to come together and make it even better. Black folks, I'm saying this, and you got to go. Black folks back in the day in Miami, Ann Marie, had it going on. Yeah. They did. And, somewhere along the way, that strength and that power has eroded. We can get it back. And, Broward County is booming, and I see a lot of beautiful things there. But there's so much opportunity here for us to make this not just a beautiful place with palm trees, but a beautiful place for us to be.
Absolutely. And let's do that. I think that there's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot in the works that we can all get involved in. And we just got to continue to push forward. And again, connected, collective. Or
You said
collected,
it.
connected.
Summed it up. You summed it up, girl.
So stay with us for a minute. We're just going to go through a few announcements, Jim. Yesterday, we released our new issue of Legacy Magazine highlighting our healthcare professionals and heroes. Did you get your copy? If you did not pick up your copy in the Miami Herald or the Sun Sentinel, which in the Miami Herald you have Legacy Miami, and in the Sun Sentinel, Legacy South Florida, don't worry, you can check out the issue at miamediagroup.com. Here you can see the covers on the screen. So please visit miamediagroup.com to check out the latest issue. If you have not tuned in to MIA Magazine Presents Soul, hosted by Miss Nikki Jellin, featuring conversations about intellectual entertainment, food, fashion, art and culture, relationships, mental health, and more, make sure you mark your calendar and tune in every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on all of MIA Media Group's social media pages. Next week, we will be kicking off a very special series called Readers. Well, let me make sure I get the name right. Called Readers Leading. Leaders Are Readers campaign. And so we will be featuring for the next 3 weeks, 3 very special authors to be announced. So tune in and make sure you share this video with everyone in your network. Jim Barry has dropped some nuggets today and some gems. And if you haven't checked out the video, please do so. And you can go to jimbarrymusic.com to see the video and see all the other work that he's doing, as well as continue to follow him on CBS 4 Miami. So again, mark your calendars. Tune in with us next Thursday at noon.